Hello and welcome to Geek Gaming. I'm Nick out of the comments, of course, Justin. So, this is some interesting news that's been coming out over the last few days. Apparently, Xbox has finally announced the specifics on how their new disc to digital feature is going to be panning out. And yeah, it's interesting stuff to talk about. But I thought we'd first kind of segue into the kind of beginnings of the story, which is basically before all of this went down, that being the disc to discless feature and the digital shtick and Sony's kerfuffle. Supposedly, Microsoft reportedly planned to continue supporting discs before the Xbox reset. So the Xbox reset being the whole change up in management, Phil Spencer being ousted and brought in with new leadership and stuff like that. The whole reset in Xbox's priorities, effectively, that came with the change in leadership. And supposedly, this all comes from a fellow by the name of Monsieur Lemon, who says that his sources did not indicate that Microsoft planned to continue supporting the physical disc before the recent reset, but it is unclear if the company will do so now with the next-gen console, Project Helix. So basically, all this stuff had to do with a individual by the name of John Linneman, I believe I pronounced that correctly. All of this down in the description, by the way, from Digital Foundry. And he says, according to his sources, Microsoft was planning or is planning to continue support for physical discs, and they aim to prioritize backwards compatibility. The topic came up during a Digital Foundry QRA posted on YouTube back in July 31st, and he raised the optimistic possibility that discs might not be going the way of the dinosaur, at least not on Xbox's side of things, because as we know, Sony did that. And that's going over so well. I won't even bring it up.
They did a thing, and it's not going over.
They did a thing. I won't even bring up what, because I think we all in the gaming space know. And if you don't, what is the rock you're living under? Can I join you? But anyways, however, the reason for this isn't necessarily due to sales numbers, but rather the backwards compatibility being a bigger priority, as you are maybe aware if you've been following Xbox. They've been kind of trying to do a lot of backwards compatibility. They seem to have been one of the big ones behind the whole thing. So it makes sense that it's one of the factors behind their decision making. He says, quote, I've heard from a couple of sources, and this is just kind of like potential rumory stuff. So again, all of this take with a grain of salt, because I kind of opened up this article by saying his sources are kind of about this whole thing. But the rumors were, according to what he heard, that at least before the current Xbox reset, so the change in management, stuff like that, it sounded like Microsoft was actually very much going to continue disc support. Not because they value disc retail sales, but because they wanted to ensure that all Xbox games were still playable on the new Xbox. He went on to envision a future where, in stark contrast to Sony's kerfuffle, Xbox doubled down on preserving physical media and even hinting at ties to Xbox's possible plans to digitize players' games libraries, which did actually come to fruition because they revealed the specifics of that going forward. So it does seem like at the end of the day, regardless if you put kind of investment on his reasoning or his rumors, it does seem like that is part of the reasoning because, again, those plans did come to pass for the digital library or the digitization of physical game libraries. So it does seem like at least that came to pass. So there is stock in the rumors because of at least that. But again, it's worth going into the specifics of it just for some preamble. And he says, quote, and it's like we can offer maybe like an external drive, or basically some means, and I think might all tie into this disc to digital stuff as well. But I get this feeling that they might actually, especially given their reaction, I'm not saying they're going to solve problems or anything drastically going to change, but I do see a future where Microsoft actually supports disc going forward for users that want to take their library with them, while Sony just completely cuts people off. So again, as he's kind of saying here and is kind of implied at the beginning, his sources weren't exactly clear on the whole specifics of what they were doing, but it does seem like that discs were in the cards for their support because, again, of the backwards compatibility and this whole digitization stuff. And while the article does say that, well, nothing has been officially confirmed by Xbox or Microsoft themselves, these reports do come as welcoming news, again, as the whole business with Sony. So that's kind of where that article kind of spiels off. And I thought I'd do that as a bit of preamble because we do actually have news of the digital to disc initiative. Or disc to digital initiative. Excuse me, I keep saying that backwards. Try saying that like 6 times or 3 times fast. It's
multiple
very difficult
times in one go.
Yeah, it's like very difficult. But anyways, so yeah, Xbox has finally announced the new disc to digital. I have to enunciate that to make sure I get it right for physical media that lets players claim digital versions of their games while support for Play Anywhere, with support, excuse me, for Play Anywhere and cloud gaming. So it's interesting. So it does seem like his theories and ideas about them using this as a backwards compatibility launch does seem to be panning out. Because the article opens by saying, and this is from John's Hardware, or Tom's Hardware, by the way, excuse me. Link again down below, like the previous one. Xbox has unveiled its long rumored new disc to digital service, which will let players who own physical copies of games claim digital entitlements, playing them as if they are own digital copies. In an announcement, Microsoft confirmed support will include digital benefits such as Xbox Play Anywhere and Xbox Cloud Gaming. So it seems like these are coming as bundled benefits for this whole thing. Which does seem, if I'm being off topic here for a second, kind of like an extension of those ads I saw like a year or two back where it's like, this is an Xbox and this is an Xbox and this is an Xbox. It seems like they're kind of going forward
This
with the whole.
is the Xbox. This is the Xbox. And this is the Xbox.
Yeah, it seems like that despite the reset in management, it seems like they're still keeping some of the original plans Spencer possibly had put in place with the whole let's try and diversify Xbox beyond just the console. But anyways, it continues. Players have spent decades building their Xbox libraries. Some games were purchased on disc, some were purchased digitally. Many spend multiple generations of hardware, the company stated in a blog post on Xbox Wire. Microsoft said the new feature, quote, brings the benefits of digital to physical discs. Xbox insiders can test this feature from August 31st. So if you're an Xbox insider, you will get early test of this new feature. We can actually see how it forms in actual practice rather than just in theory. The company says that most disc-based games on Xbox One and Xbox Series X support the new game feature. If you insert a game disc into your Xbox One or Series X, you can claim a digital entitlement by launching the game. Now, again, I'm going to get a little off tangent here, but digital entitlement is an interesting choice of wording here. Because you got to remember, right? If you know anything about how games work in the digital space, you're not actually buying the game. You're buying a license to the game.
You're
And there's a whole
the
bunch of
ability to play that.
Exactly. And there's a whole bunch of legalese and stuff wrapped around there. So them using the word digital entitlement is an interesting turn of phrase, and I'm going to be curious to see what the legal shtick is behind all of that. Like, is it just going to be a form of license that they can put in the thing and it comes with benefits? Or, are they just basically going to give you the license to a game digitally if you own it physically? Like, that seems like what's being implied if you ask me. But again, I'm just trying to connect the dots where I see them. So I could be completely wrong here. It could be some in-between thing. But I mean, it says they're giving a Play Everywhere thing, which I mean, you're going to need a license to have the Play Anywhere bit because that would require you to download it digitally to another device. So logic stands to reason. They're going to come with a digital license. So I don't know. Game entitlement just might be slang for them giving you a digital license if you pop in a physical disc to your Xbox and physically, I guess, which means heck, I guess this means you can digitize your entire library and get a whole bunch of licenses out of it, which not a bad idea, honestly.
No.
Still doesn't really get rid of the problem of the whole they could still get rid of it depending on how the legalese on the back end of those licenses work. But I mean, it's not like they're forcing you to get rid of disc yet. Knock on wood.
Yet.
Again, this has nothing to do with what they'll do next generation, but it seems at least for going forward in this generation, they're going to still continue doing this because they actually continue going on to say on the topic of the discs that not only can you claim the digital entitlement, my tongue is not enunciating properly right now, and that means that the games you own on disc will be accessible through your digital library, including support for Xbox Play Anywhere and Xbox Cloud Gaming where supported. So again, basically, I guess it's where they're supporting it. So game per game basis, I guess, on that one. You can also keep using your physical copy as normal. Xbox says that thousands of titles are supported, and more importantly, with more being added over time, it's confirmed that not every title will be available at launch. So, again, this really sounds like kind of a play on what Nintendo was doing, albeit in a slightly different fashion. Not the digital entitlement, digitization bit, but the fact that kind of like how Nintendo had that whole, hey, we're going to have our classics catalog come in for like download if you have a Nintendo Online membership of a certain level, I think. And we're going to be adding more stuff to the thing as time goes on. It does seem like that's going to be a continuation of that. In fact, actually, a more apt comparison for that might actually be Xbox's original pitch for backwards compatibility on the console, where they added more backwards compatible games as time went on. So it does seem like maybe this is going to be a continuation of that initiative, right? Where it's like they're going to add more stuff as time goes on. So again, presumably, if we want to flip back to the disc discussion for a second, maybe this means, well, I would assume this means actually that discs are not going to be killed off, at least this generation for Xbox, possibly not even next generation, because it would be hard to make a promise for buy the disc, use the disc, get a digital version of it as well on the house if they just kill off discs going forward. It doesn't really make sense. So at least it seems this generation Xbox is going to keep the discs again, possibly even into next generation, depending on if they carry this initiative forward with the Project Helix, which is presumably going to be the next console. Which, again, on a side note, Xbox has a weird freaking naming convention.
Just a little.
But yeah, that's just a little. Well, I mean, say what you will about PlayStation doing PlayStation things and Sony doing Sony things, but at least they were concise with their naming. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. It was easy to keep track of. But it's like, oh, Xbox 360, Xbox Series X, Xbox One X. It's like, ugh. I don't even remember. Like, I honestly don't remember which console is which at this point sometimes. Like, genuinely. I'm like, is this an X? A Series X? I think it is a Series X. I don't know. But anyways. So that's kind of the news this week. What do you think, Justin?
It is very nice. Honestly, no matter what, you can't go wrong with being able to go and take your physical disc and being able to just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to play it almost at any point in time. Keep in mind that like they also set it up and said that they'll be setting it up so you could do cloud gaming as well. So literally just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go onto my device and just start playing this game right now, not downloading it or anything. So like little things like that, honestly, sure, a lot of work to put into it, but is so convenient and open-ended for people. It's very nice. You can't go wrong with that. Like, you can't say it's not a bad thing.
True. And again, this goes back to the idea of backwards compatibility and the idea that, again, as Lehman said before, or Lemon, I think I'm getting the name right. So forgive me if I'm not. But as he said in the previous article I brought up, it feels like the idea that this is being used as a way to continue backwards compatibility going forward does make sense, right? Because if they can allow you to basically get a digital license to any physical game you get a hold of, that still preserves the digital or the resale environment for physical games.
Yep.
Because that means even if you don't get like new Project Helix games, whether they come out on disc or not, which hopefully they will, but again, we'll see, you can still get older games and they can still be traded and resold, and you can get those as digital going forward and kind of bring them forward in your library. It's a nice way to kind of chronicle and allow you to build out libraries for your games using previous generation titles. No, it's not a bad idea. Again, this does feel like a continuation of the backwards compatibility push. Will this come in through Project Helix as well? Again, possibly. Maybe, it depends on how far. Because again, right, it also, like, if you're bringing up the question of backwards compatibility, like, beyond Project Helix, if they continue doing consoles for another generation or two, which who knows at this point, that logic would still be in effect, right? Like, you could still use that as the same basis to build out libraries from Project Helix games going into Project Neanderthal or whatever they call it next time. Like, you can use that logic to continue the backwards compatibility push going forward. So it seems like this is a pretty sound way to keep discs around, at least in the Xbox ecosystem, as far as the resale market goes. Granted, he does say it doesn't sound like they value much in the way of physical game sales, but again, the backwards compatibility on a technical side of things, which again is still a case to keep discs around. Especially as things become more and more digital, which, I mean, expect all the good games that came out this generation, like Red Dead 2 and stuff like that, to be digitizable. Heck, I would even argue things like GTA 5, if you have that on disc still, back when that was still a disc thing. I don't think they even sell it on disc anymore.
Probably not.
Probably not. I still have one of those on disc. You can probably digitize that, so that'll be interesting to see. And who knows, maybe they'll go further back in the catalog and do Xbox 360 eventually and open it up to that. But again, that's just me spitballing theories at that point. But anyways, that's kind of the show. That's kind of our stuff this week. Thought that's interesting to bring up, kind of the difference in perspectives between Sony's close the door, lock it down, and just kicked everyone out fiasco versus, I would say, Xbox's more balanced approach to it. Again, no idea if they're going to continue discs going into Helix, but at the very least, it sounds like they'll continue for this generation because, again, it's kind of hard to keep this whole physical to digital push going if, like, after a month, there's no more physical games. That kind of defeats the purpose. So yeah, expect games to continue physically, at least for this generation, and for Helix, it's up in the air. But I would wager, as a betting man, they probably will. Again, backwards compatibility is still a good push for next gen too. So yeah, that's the show. Hope y'all enjoyed. Hope y'all find it interesting. Like, comment, subscribe. Trying to build the channel. We're really small. I would love to see us get to 100 eventually, someday, maybe. And you can make that happen. I would be really, really grateful. And you also would be really, really grateful as well.
Yes.
So have a good one. Have fun. Have whatever. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good one.